Hello and welcome to the 4,000 subscriber special. Yay! It's me, Witty, and I'm going to be doing some voiceover work for you guys because recently I posted up a video asking you to ask me some questions and then state where you are from and what accent you might have and obviously what question you want to ask. And then I'm going to go forward and answer that question with my own accent. However, when I'm imitating you, asking the question, I'll be using your accent. So we're going to have some fun with that, I'm telling you. But I would like to just put down a little disclaimer now, right now, that please take this video with a very, very light grain of salt. Pinch of salt. Anything, tiny bit of salt. Because all I'm saying is this is going to come off as incredibly offensive. I am almost certain. So just have fun with it, okay? Because I'm going to try and do these accents. Some of them I've never done before. Others I have done before. And I'm sure that almost all of them are going to be borderline very, very offensive. So I don't intend to be that way, but it's going to be almost impossible to come across as not as offensive. So just let's all just have some fun with it, not take it too seriously, okay, and no complaining, although I'm sure some will have fun. And also I would like to say that if I'm going to do particularly American accents, they might all sound the same because I can only really do the cowboy type American accent, but I'll try and do others. So again, with all the accents, it's just my interpretation of it, really. I'm just having a bit of fun with it. It's not an absolute accurate representation in any way of what people may sound like from the country or state or area that they are from. It's just my interpretation. So thanks again, and keep watching and let's have some fun. Dremora Captain 111 doesn't say where he is from, so I'll give him his own accent, and he asks me the question: if you could voice act any unit in Warcraft 3, what would it be and why? Well, I'll tell you. I would do the peasant because that's one of the ones that I probably can do, and it is very funny. The peasant has a lot of funny sayings. If you actually look in the Warcraft 3 editor, you can check them out. Look in the sound editor and listen away, and there's a lot of funny Easter egg kind of sounds in Warcraft 3. So the peasant's like, "Righto, alright, what? On me way then, you're the king," and all that sort of stuff. So I love the peasant. It always makes me chuckle a little bit inside when I hear him. I have a question here that was asked by a couple of people. So Bulaki, who didn't say where he was from, asks a very similar question to Dungeon Tai, who is from Austria, and he asks the question: "Hello, Mr. Wiki. I wanted to ask you how you micro your army. Do you work with many hockey groups? And if so, then please tell me how you hockey your army. It would help me a lot to know this because I want to know how to hockey my army right." So, yes, of course I hotkey, and I hotkey like mad because hotkey is a really good way to get good at the game. If you learn your hotkeys, then you're going to be much quicker to respond in every single way. I still do a bit of clicking though. I do admit that when it comes to certain things because I've not memorized everything and I play random. But for example, playing human, if I was to use my hotkeys for that, I would say, for example, I had the army composition of Archmage, Mountain King, 3 footmen, some rifles, and some sorceresses, and then some tanks as well. Let's say we've got that. Now there's several ways to do this, and I would go along using the easiest way, because to be honest, the easier and more simple you can keep it, the better your micro anyway. If you try to use too many hotkeys, you're just going to overwhelm yourself and you'll probably play worse. So what I would suggest is, number 1, Archmage. Number 2, Mountain King. Now let me just state this. If you didn't know already, if you press F1, it will select your first hero, F2 will select your second hero, F3 will select your third hero. If you are able to do this, and do this without affecting your micro whatsoever, then great for you, because you get a lot of extra bonus hotkeys. However, I cannot, so I do not. I don't use the F1 keys, the F keys, because it just doesn't flow for me. So I will do 1 for Archmage, 2 for Mountain King, because I like to have them separate. Some people keep them all in one group, or they tab between the heroes. So they keep them. You can either keep your Archmage and your Mountain King together as hotkey 1, but use tab to switch between the two. I do not like to do this. I like to manually select each one, control what they're doing. I don't want them both moving to the left. Sometimes I only want to move one. So Archmage 1, Mountain King 2, Footmen and Rifles can go together as 3. You can always separate them, however, not necessary, because really they are just your damagers. They're the units that you're sending to attack, so you don't want to think about them too much. You press 3, you right click on your unit, you're done. Okay, you can come back to them and you can manually click on them and move them about, but as far as you're concerned, that's what you want to do. Now 4 will be your sorceresses. Now you want your spellcasters really on a separate hotkey away from your attacking units like the Footmen and Rifles. You can still have them together, but just for argument's sake I would have sorceresses separately on 4. That way I can press 4, press W to slow, because that's the hotkey for slow, or I for invisibility, or O for polymorph. All I have to do is go 4O or 4I. I don't have to worry about affecting the Footmen or the Rifles to do so. And tanks are a nice easy one, and you can just have them as one of your later hotkeys, as 5 for example, because you don't need to think about them too much. Just whack 5, attack, move, you forget about your tanks. You're really just concentrating on switching between your Archmage and your Mountain King, making sure that 3, your Footmen and Rifles, are attacking whatever it is that you want to be focused at that time, and 4 are your units that you're going to be controlling the fight with, so spellcasters. Okay? And if you really want, you can highlight all of them if there's a small enough number of them, and just group them all as maybe group 6. So that way, instead of having to press 1 to move, say if you wanted to move from here to there, you just, instead of going 1, 2, 3, you just press 6. It's got all of your units highlighted and you move them. But obviously the later the game goes, the more units that you get, you're going to have to use more hotkeys. So that's how I approach it, okay? I hope that helped. I have another question about hotkeys here from Plagiarity, if that's how you say it. That's your YouTube nick. And he doesn't state where he is from, so I don't know, I can give him another accent. Let's just think.
Hey Woody, I remember your guide about hotkeys, and I have one question about that. It's obvious that everyone is hotkeying in different ways, but I'm just checking my replay and Warcraft free replay parser, and compare this to any pro. Seems that they have 1.5 to 3 times higher APM, but they are assigning hotkeys like 5 to 10 times more. Do you have any idea about the way that they hotkey units? Hotkeying buildings is pretty easy.
Well, as stated before in the previous one, I told you how I would do it. As to how they do it, I'm not entirely sure, but a replay is a solid way to look at it, because you should be able to, if you want to, go to warcraftfreereplayers.com or anything like that, check, you know, Grubby Replays or whoever you may like, or whatever the latest replay is of the top players, and then obviously, once you loaded that replay, watch it from their point of view, and you will see what units they have selected. So, if they are moving up, they might have something strange like just their Farseer and 5 Grunts selected, but their Shadow Hunter is selected along with 6 Witch Doctors. So the point I'm trying to make here is, as you stated, you basically said, you answered your own question there, really, is that's how you can actually check, because you're just seeing how they move their units. Does it have 3 Grunts selected when it's moving left? Are those Grunts perhaps grouped along with, because I'm talking about the green circles here, So do you have 3 green circles around the 3 grunts and 3 green circles around the 3 witch doctors? So that means they're in one group. If that's the case, it's unlikely that they may have just sort of selected with their mouse. That's most likely a hotkey group. They've pressed 3, for example, and that's their grunts and witch doctors together. So I could go into more detail, but really that is a good way to do it. Just check the replays, watch it carefully, watch which units and which heroes have the green circle around it, and that way you can kind of get an idea of how they've hotkeyed it. Johannes Söderlund, if that's how you say it, if that's your real name, is from Sweden, and he asks the question, why you know wear a hat, Witty? Oh, that's going to sound so much like other accents I'm going to do later on down the line. But yeah, why don't I wear a hat? I don't know, because I've got the headset on, I guess. Otherwise, if I didn't have the headset, I could probably wear a hat quite comfortably, but otherwise I've got to kind of fit a hat around the headset, and it's rather uncomfortable. I can have a hood though, have a menacing hood, you know, like the Emperor, Star Wars, but doing that for every single video might get a bit old. So yeah, if the technology ever came through for me to be able to use a microphone without having to have this headset on, then I would probably use that, and then that might allow me to use hats. Greasy220 from Australia, and I've got a few Australian accents to do, and by few Australian accents to do, I mean attempt, because I only really ever do one Australian accent, so I'll try to keep them different, but we'll see. He says, hi Witty, we know that you don't really enjoy playing 1v1 on Battle.net, but do you think you can maybe, for just 1 week, switch from 4 versus 4 to 1 versus 1? We really love watching you play 1 versus 1, especially against decent players. Unfortunately, some of the GBR players make it a little too easy for you, which is why I would prefer to watch you play 1 versus 1 on Battle.net. I think after a week you will begin to have the hang of 1 versus 1 strategies, timings, so you will begin to hate 1 versus 1 a little less after the week is finished. Yes, I do intend to do 1 versus 1. By the way, the rest of you can go and dig on Greasy220 because he's having a go at you, you GBR people. He's digging you right there. If you heard anything I just said before this, if you could understand the accents. I have done a bit of 1 versus 1. I'm getting into it, and I will continue to try and get into it. My main goal is to try and blimmin' get rank 1 with 4 versus 4. I need to win enough games that I can actually go ahead, because the thing is other people are also trying to go for rank 1. So I'm getting to the point now where I'm plateauing at a certain rank, and unless I can get some sort of lucky win streak, it's hard to get up there to the top one, because I'm just moving along with the rest that are sort of gradually winning games. So yes, I will be bringing out more 1 versus 1 games. You'll have the GBR 1 versus 1s, of course. They're always fun and entertaining, but I will also be venturing onto Battle.net. So check those out. But it's you're going to have to really work with me on that, because 1 versus 1 is a real different ball game. You need to know the maps, you need to know timing, strategies, like I say, and that sort of thing I'm not very strong with, and you have to invest a fair bit of time learning that kind of stuff. But if I did stick to one race like Night Off, at least it would be easier, because it's much harder to learn timings and all of that for 4 different races. So short answer is yes, I will be doing more 1 versus 1. Okay, Daysephirim Jack from Australia as well. I've got a few Australians here. I shouldn't really do them one after the other, otherwise it's going to be really obvious that my accent's all the same. But he is from Adelaide in Australia, and from a YouTube clip I've just checked, apparently you guys have more of a bounce, so I'm going to try that. And it's only a short question. He asks me, do you have any regrets for sticking with a decade-old game for so long? God knows what that was. I don't think that was Australian, was it? Okay, well, no, I don't have any regrets at all, because I love Warcraft 3, and I think I will continue to love it. In a platonic way, of course, but we've had some good times together, me and old Warcraft 3, and yeah, I think it's a lifelong relationship, so yeah, many more decades to go, I guess. I'm sure I'll come back to it from time to time, but not as frequently as I do at the moment, because as we all know, time goes on, so you can't play everything forever. But No, I loved Warcraft 3 when it came out. I was only a month or so away, and just loved it ever since. It's a brilliant game, so that's why I still play it. Mexican Rob from Australia. I'm not sure where from Australia, so I might do a really over the top one now, and as if my other ones weren't over the top enough. He says, "G'day, witty one. We never say g'day. Try hero combinations. What is the most powerful, most fun, and most random yet effective? Also, I never see people go Mountain King, Paladin, and BM to banish Bolt and Holy Strike and Undead. Is there a reason?" And a request, tinker with the sexy time TC SH strat. That's Tauren Chieftain and Shadowhunter. Use clusters to stun and get TC into a good position. Cheers, mate. We always say cheers, mate. Okay, so let's see. Where should I start from? Try hero combinations. What is the most powerful? Okay, really, the most powerful tri-hero combinations are your kind of standard ones. It's a bit of a shame, but your very standard ones. So, for human, Archmage, Mountain King, Paladin. Obviously, this will get a lot of responses. I'm sure many people will argue with me on these, but this is how I see it. Archmage, Mountain King, Paladin for human, just flawlessly solid against pretty much. We're talking about a general consensus here. We're talking about overall, because if you're going for a particular build, perhaps you might want to throw in, if you are Orc, Tauren Chieftain, Pandarian Brewmaster, and Pitlord for shitloads of AoE. But this really depends. So if we're going for standard, human is Archmage, Mountain King, Paladin. Orc would be Blade Master, Shadowhunter, Tauren Chieftain. Almost definitely. The Tauren Chieftain could possibly be replaced with something else, but not really, because he's an amazing hero. The Farseer is miles behind the... really, the Orcs have amazing ones, so just Blade Master, Shadowhunters, Tauren Chieftain. I don't even need to say any more than that. That is definitely the case. Undead, very standard and typical, as you may expect, is the Death Knight, Lich, and Dreadlord. Yes, that is by far the best for undeads. Maybe the Dreadlord could be replaced by Dark Ranger. Really depends on your situation, what you're going for, but Sleep is incredibly powerful in free-for-all, for example, or big battles where you're going to have 3 high-level heroes. Night Elf, they're a bit more flexible, to be honest, now when I think about Night Elf. They're a lot more flexible. I'm not really sure, and that's the one race that I actually play for 1 versus 1, but I don't really know. I would say Demon Hunter is an absolute must. Priestess of the Moon is an absolute must because of the range unit that Night Elf tend to use, so she would be very good, and she has a lot of potential. Between Warden and Keeper of the Grove, you may suspect Keeper of the Grove, but I'm actually going to say Warden because I think generally, overall, she has more flexibility and more capability. Whereas Keeper of the Grove, he is quite easily countered, so he could be stopped. He's whereas the Priestess of the Moon isn't just for Starfall, so they both have challenge, so you don't want too much challenge. Otherwise, you can easily fit in a Pandarian Brewmaster into the Night Elf ranks. The most random yet effective would be something like Panda. If you were going for tri-hero, go Panda, Alchemist, and Dark Ranger. So that will give you the ability to transmute units or charm them as well, so you can really get your money's worth from those heroes. And Panda is just super overall brilliant at dealing with everything, and he can gel quite nicely with the other two. You never see Mountain King, Paladin, and Blood Mage because it's very difficult to actually pull off. Not necessarily that difficult to pull off, but far more difficult than it is to just go Archmage, Mountain King, and Paladin. Because the Archmage is like, out of almost all the heroes, and the other races like Undead, Night Elf, Orc, they have some real staple heroes. Like Blade Master is an absolute must for Orc. You know, they got Death Knight's an absolute must for Undead, Demon Hunter's an absolute must for Night Elf. Archmage is an absolute must for human. He gels with the casters, which you will pretty much almost definitely want. and the other heroes with the Brilliance Aura. Brilliance Aura is a really overpowered ability. Overpowered might not be the right term for it, but if you were going to compare it to the other passives that are in the game, it's way up there. Brilliance Aura is insane, so you pretty much have to go Archmage. So that's probably why you don't see that very often. And sure, I can throw in some cluster rockets from a Tinker Chieftain, a Goblin Tinker with the Tauren Chieftain, Shadow Hunter, and HH and Shaman strategy. The idea really is to build up the Tauren Chieftain. You're not necessarily even supposed to go Shadow Hunter, but I can always do that for a 4 versus 4, not a problem. Alex Murray from New Zealand says, "Hi Witty One, Alex from New Zealand here. My question is, what is the most memorable Warcraft 3 game and why? Cheers." Now that's obviously going to sound so much like Australian, and I know the New Zealand and the Australian are like, so I'm not getting into that. So yeah, that's my attempt on it anyway. That's just almost impossible to answer, to be honest, because I'm sure I've had some absolutely amazing games that I've probably even forgotten by now, because I have played, I couldn't even put a number on it, the amount of Warcraft 3 games I would have played in my lifetime. But I'll always remember a game that I had a long time ago with Hutchka, who was from Denmark. I haven't spoken to him in ages. I'm not sure what he's doing. I'm sure he's doing well. Get on your Hutchka, whatever you're doing. But we had a long, this is way back in Reign of Chaos, and there was just a game where it was a really long map, and I just went ma shims, and I think we both just went ma shims, and just tore it to pieces. It was a really long game, a lot of fun, not really a lot of sketchy memories. I just remember a lot of shims and a lot of destroyed buildings. Otherwise, you know, there's many other games that would stand out to me, such as the Tower Island with Pracky. There was one that we didn't record, and this is back when we used to do it before I was probably even recording for Warcraft 3, where the game actually went on so long that I actually had to go to sleep, and I just think I left it, and Pracky stayed up and played or something, and then I would come over and take over, or we may have just both gone to sleep. But the game basically hit such a stalemate point where we could just go to sleep, and we knew that it's very unlikely the enemy would have been able to break through the Tower Island, but we weren't in a position where we could really break them either on the island. I can't remember what happened with that. Pracky might have to help me with that, but I remember the game. I don't know how many hours it went for, but put it that way, I went to sleep during the game. So that's how long that was. Another one would be one of my Warcraft 3 games, was one that's quite popular with a lot of people, is Warcraft 3 RT 137, if you want to look that up. That was the one where that was quite fun. That was back in against some sort of like cocky noobs basically, and it was a 1 versus 4 situation. It's supposed to be 4 versus 4, but gradually my allies just started disconnecting or leaving, and I got more and more agitated at the start. I was like, oh right, another one's left. Oh, that's it. Oh, that's great. And then pretty soon I had to concentrate so hard that I couldn't even really say a word, because it was just taking all of my effort and resources just to play 4 people at the same time and try and do it effectively. So there's a lot of games out there, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more games that will be quite memorable indeed. Said Mogiux 99, David from Lithuania. Oh, I'm going to struggle with this. He asks, who is better in your opinion, Dreadlord or Cryptlord? Please, I don't know whether that's right or not. Please, forgive me. Okay, Dreadlord, baby, Dreadlord is the one to go for. Everyone loves the Cryptlord for some reason. Oh, make the Cryptlord, but no, Dreadlord is amazing. He is super underrated. He has a really good aura if you've got a lot of melee units. Again, that's why he's probably undervalued in 4 versus 4, because auras are powerful in 4 versus 4, but 4 versus 4 involves a lot of air units, and most air units don't benefit from vampiric aura, apart from Gargs, which can do well. So, yeah, I think Dreadlord easily brings way more to the table than Cryptlord does. Sleep is just amazing, and Carrion Swarm is a brilliant ability, but Sleep is really his main one, because it's so kind of misunderstood. There's a way to use sleep that can really do wonders for you. Sleeping a hero before they can escape means you get a load more free kills for the rest of his army because he can't do anything. It's like a stun. It's like a really strong stun. Think of sleep as a stun that they can't get out of. They actually have to attack their own unit to get them out of it. It's brilliant. So Dreadlord is the easy winner for me there. Sorry, Cryptlord. Wold of Wold from Norway asks, I just wonder that have you ever won a game with only workers in 1 versus 1? Just wondering. Sorry, I'm just gonna have to keep apologizing over and over. Alright, have I ever won a game with only workers? Well, technically I can cheat a little bit here and say yes to that, but that's because the question is somewhat vague. You say game, I say StarCraft 2. Because StarCraft 2, at bronze level, you can actually win with workers only. You just rush the enemy, and the workers actually do a good bit of damage, to be honest. A considerable bit of damage very early on in the game. So you can only win with workers. As for Warcraft 3, possibly, maybe a really long time ago, I may have won one game out of the thousands upon possibly millions of games that I've ever played. It's almost impossible to win with just workers in Warcraft 3, but I'm sure I probably have done it. In fact, there may have been moments where, again, a vague answer to this question would be maybe I only had workers left. So I have killed people before. There was a burrow rush that I did where I finished the person off with my peons as a kind of insult. And there was also a 4 versus 4 I did, which I can't remember what number it was, but I also just went, I think, possibly Tauren Chieftain, but I think it was just otherwise only peons, and I got 100 food of peons and attacked, and it went catastrophically. That's not even a word, but it went devastatingly bad. That's a better one. It just went really, really bad, and in 1 versus 1 might be possible, but good luck, to be honest. Good luck to you trying to do that. Mihalio 343, Mihalio Michael from Serbia asks, what is the best way and situation to use Beastmaster ult? I really want to see you try a Serbian accent. Well, I hope that satisfies. And as goes for all the accents, feel free, I'm sure this is going to be filled with comments of people sort of saying how wrong I am, and feel free to do so and try to correct me. In fact, this is something I meant to mention earlier, but if you're still watching up to this point, good for you. Good for you. And I was going to say, I'll get to this question in a moment, but I was going to say, what would be really good is perhaps the people that ask me these questions or other people might want to chip in, and it would be better if they were genuine, but obviously joke ones could be amusing too, is if people could possibly put down video responses. So if you have a webcam, or maybe just record your voice and put that up on a video, you render it, upload it to YouTube, or just send it to me somehow. Yeah, a video response would be quite good if there's a load of video responses to this of just people trying out the accents, or perhaps preferably having the actual accents of the people of how I should sound if I was trying to do Serbian accent or a Norwegian accent or Lithuanian, New Zealand, whatever it might be. So yeah, now getting to this question. Okay, you want to treat the Beastmaster ult. It's a channeling spell, so it can be interrupted, so you want to be very careful where you position yourself. But unfortunately, the Beastmaster, in order to get the maximum effect out of using his ultimate, has to position himself pretty close to the enemy. So he's almost asking to get stunned or controlled in some sort of way. But you have to go with the flow and hope that they don't control you. And the way to do this is, let's see, let's get my webcam. Okay, so it's easy over here. No, it's not. Right hand's easier. Okay, so the enemy army is here, and you are here. So you will run up to the. Oh my god! You will run up to them, and then once you reach this point, you're facing their army. You're gonna turn around. So then you're. Oh my god! I can't do this. I cannot do this for some reason with the webcam. It's too hard. My fingers don't point. Right, that's it. Okay, you're going to turn back on yourself, basically. That is really awkward. Okay, you're here. You were facing there. Now you're going to turn around and face back that way. This is really difficult at this angle. and then you're going to use your ultimate. Now that was a really tricky way to explain it, but I hope that the point is you're getting close to your enemy, you're turning around, and then you're using the ultimate. Now what this does is this means that all of the stampeding sort of lizards that he spawns that do damage, splash damage when they hit units, are going to be spawning from the enemy's side, and they're going to be coming down that way. Whereas if you were doing it when you were facing them, the lizards are going to be spawning from here, going up that way. I can't do this. I should have done it that way. It's much easier for me to do it that way. For some reason, doing the right hand that way, there's no flex there properly. But anyway, you face your army, you turn round, and then you use it. So you position your spell away from them. So you've got your back to them, basically, when you're casting it. If that makes sense. I hope that does make sense. And yeah, that's how you should use the Beastmaster. And obviously the situation varies, but preferably when they're all bunched together. So thank you. Lee16 from Italy says, my question is Sorcerer's Master training worth it for polymorph and invisibility in 4 vs 4 RT situations? Or is the micro too much to handle in the big 4 vs 4 battles? Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm sorry for that. Is Sorcerer's Master training worth it? If you think you can get it. But if I'm honest, I very rarely see it. And I even played a 4 vs 4 recently where I tried it out and they were good. In fact, it might even be in one of these videos that you're watching right now. I can't remember. But yes, the Sorceress invisibility is so tough. The way I see it is slow is an insanely overpowered ability. One of the most overpowered abilities you can get in the game. And Sorceresses get it without having to research anything. You get tier 2, you build a Sorceress, she's got slow. She's essentially got the most powerful ability she's going to have. Because it's 50 mana. You can get 4 slows for 1 polymorph. Now slow reduces like attack and movement speed by 60%, something like that. It's crazy. So slow really is so overpowered. So I'm going to actually say no. Polymorph isn't worth it. It's not that expensive to get to if you are actually going that way and you've already got the Arcane Sanctums and you've been doing the tech, and as long as you've been researching it along the way. But really, it can be countered quite easily with the spells. Not that people actually use Dispel very often in 4 vs 4. So it's like this. Invisibility is very useful for saving your heroes if you have the micro, but yes, it is a lot of micro to worry about. You also have to position. Polymorph, you have to get a little bit close to the units in order to do it. For some reason, slow seems to have a longer range. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it feels that way. I'm going to say don't worry about getting polymorph or invisibility. If it happens naturally, so be it. But the main thing is that you've got slow, okay? And otherwise, if you want to worry about countering the enemy, then you might want to get heavy air to counter the melee, rather than using polymorph to take out Taurens and such. Or the same goes, get tanks to deal with heavy air, instead of using polymorph to get rid of shims or frostwhelms. So, is it worth it? Only if you can do it. Otherwise, don't worry about it. And it is a lot to worry about. Micro-wise, it's not the hardest thing in the world, but it's not something you really want to be fussing about in a big 4 vs 4 battle. So, take it or leave it. Sterling Johnson from America, as he says, asked the questions. In any of your 4 vs 4 RTs, have you ever rallied with your allies to pull off any truly unusual strategies, such as mass armor made invisible by Sorks, an instant Great Hall teleport behind enemy lines, or any other coordinated ploys of mass deception? Wow. Okay, sorry for that. I'm just going to say sorry after every single video. Let's have a look at this. Have you ever rallied with your allies to pull off any unusual strategies? I'm going to say yes, probably. In fact, there was a weird mass army made thing, and I mentioned it earlier, was the one where I actually went 100 peons. And in that game, my allies actually did support me, because obviously after a while they probably realised, what is this guy doing? He's got a lot of peons in his base and no units. And that was actually one of the few 4 versus 4 games where I didn't actually get screwed over by my allies crying at me the whole game. They kind of went with it and just tried to support me and try and get auras and, you know, casters and that to try and build them up, like Bloodlust and such. Invisibility by Sorks. That instant Great Hall teleport thing, I really want to try that out. I know you mentioned it to me before, and I'd love to give that a go. And when I do, then I can bring that to you. But as for now, I don't think I've pulled that off. At least I can't remember doing it. And like I say, it's much better for a ranged team. For RT, it's pretty difficult to get your allies to say, right, okay guys, I'm going to build a town hall inside this guy's base. Everyone get TP, and then TP to that base, and then we kill his main. That's a hard thing to do in RT successfully. On paper, sounds simple, but you see what my allies are like is pretty difficult. So I'd like to do that. So I'll try and work on that for you. Okay, I didn't get your name here, apart from your YouTube nick, but it is ANPN. That's what it looks like to me, but this is Russian, so it looks... that's not what it is. So I'm going to call you Ampen. And that's your... he's from Moscow in Russia. And he says, "Dear Witty, once I asked you, why did you not do this collect a variety of orbs on one character? You said they do not stack. Now I want to ask you, it may be worthwhile to collect orbs on different characters, such as Orb of Poison on one and Orb of Lightning on Corruption on another." Oh, and this message was created with Google Translate. So, yeah, I got the idea of what your message is trying to say. And we figured out that, basically, you can have Orb of Lightning, Orb of Poison, Orb of Fire on one character. They're only going to benefit from the one that's on the first slot. So they can't stack. You can't really get all 3 effects from those orbs hitting. That's a balance issue that Blizzard, no doubt, put in. For good reasons. Otherwise, you would have some superheroes massing orbs. And the other part, your question is very valid and very true. Yes, you would want to. It would be worthwhile to collect orbs on different characters. So let's see. Your Blade Master, if you were Orc, you have 3 heroes. And this is assuming that you've got 4 versus 4 RT going, because otherwise how would you get the other orbs from the other races? So your Blade Master, he'd have Orb of Lightning. He's the only real melee unit that is reliable for this. This is why I said Orc, because a lot of melee units, or melee heroes rather, have a difficult time getting their spell effects off. So we'll say Blade Master, because he can get in there. He can use his Orb of Lightning, and he's got very fast attack, so he's very reliably going to sort of do that purge effect, which stuns, or it doesn't stun the unit, but it stops them in their tracks. It freezes them. So you want Blade Master with Orb of Lightning. Shadow Hunter, he could have Orb of Corruption, because he's nice long range, and he's able to get into the thick of battle quite a lot, reach his targets quite easily. So Orb of Corruption, that way you're always applying with the Shadow Hunter that -5 armor debuff on the target that you want to focus on. And if we were going to say Tauren Chieftain, this is saying that melee heroes don't have a problem getting into the battle, but your other choices are Orb of Fire or Orb of Poison. Well, Orb of Fire is pretty rubbish, to be honest, even with the splash. And I tried to test this, and I put like gyros together and stuff, and it's okay, but even in the best circumstances, Orb of Fire is pretty rubbish. So Orb of Poison is no doubt the other one to go, would be your third orb, because any other ones you wouldn't realistically get unless they were an item from like a level 8 creep on Market Square, for example. I think one of those might drop Orb of Frost, so you could have Orb of Frost potentially from a creep. That would be good. From another third hero. It doesn't have to be Tauren Chieftain, but Farseer, for example, he's ranged, he could do it. But otherwise get Orb of Poison when you can. So if you had an orb on each of your heroes, yes, that would be very effective and very good. Cammy Boy 2K8 Cameron from England, no less, and Manchester, no doubt. I've always wanted to do a Manchester accent, and to be honest, this isn't going to sound good because I've never been able to do one very well, but I'll try it. Would you ever consider doing a Warcraft 2 campaign playthrough? That's literally as good as I can do. I cannot do Manchester for some reason. So, would I ever consider it? No. Because I'm going to do it. I really, really want to do the Warcraft 2 campaign. I love that game, and it's been a long time since I played it. So, it's going to be nice and fresh and newish. Obviously, there's going to be moments that I remember. I go, oh, I know this. Oh, I know that. But I really love that game. It's an amazing game. Pretty damn old by now, standards, but I've got no problem playing old games, as you can tell. So, yes, I really want to do one. So I'm going to do Warcraft 2 campaign in the future. Oh, this next one. This is what I'm really talking about. This is where you are just going to have to totally and utterly forgive me, throw away all your discriminations and all that kind of stuff. Just have fun with this. This is going to be bad. Okay. Ipsic Cody from Japan. I'm saying sorry before this, and I'm going to say sorry after this as well. He says, "Oh, Witty, why you're so awesome? Just kidding. My question is, have you ever considered doing StarCraft 2 RT games? I know most people come to your channel off of Warcraft 3 content, but sometimes it's more refreshing to see other games played by you once in a while. It doesn't have to be a daily like Warcraft 3, maybe a StarCraft 2 Friday, for instance." Sorry. So sorry. I don't know how else I'm supposed to do that accent without sounding the way I did. I'm really sorry. So, getting to your question, have I ever considered doing StarCraft 2 RT games? Yes. But I tried it out, didn't like it. It's totally and utterly flawed. I'm really against StarCraft 2 RT particularly because, one, you can get arranged teams versus RT teams, random teams, which completely doesn't make sense, but that's the way Battle.net 2.0 for that works, which is ridiculous. And I'll probably get into that in a later question. I'm sure there's one coming up and I remember about that. But yeah, ignoring that aside, the fact that you could be playing against organised teams where your allies are random, you can basically have the issue of having no town portal. So what happens when they rush your allies? By the time you send your army to your allies, he's dead already. So all RT is, to me, is either block up and turtle up, and then you might be able to get a semi-good game, or rush, and most of the time it is just rush, and kill them before they kill you. I think it's not good. I don't like it at all. But I may be wrong. I'm sure others disagree with me there, but I am not a fan of StarCraft 2 RT for that purpose. Warcraft 3 has it nailed. The team games of Warcraft 3 are as good as you're basically going to get it because of things like Scroller Town Portal. It actually makes the game balanced. So, as for StarCraft 2 Friday, for instance, possibly. I like to bring out other games, but to be quite frank, you guys don't make it very easy for me. If I have brought out StarCraft 2 content previously in the past, and it tends to get a bit of a harsh rep, you know. Sometimes people lay into it. They go, well, where's the Warcraft 3? Oh, I guess you're not making Warcraft 3 videos anymore just because you've uploaded one video that has some different content in it that isn't Warcraft 3. Well, this is a massive epic struggle that I have to suffer and most other YouTubers that upload content have to suffer from. You have to support me. If you want to see other games or, you know, potential variety, then you have to be supportive of that. But whenever I do it, I always get a super hard time, and it almost always backfires on me and makes things worse than if I had have bothered in the first place. So, for the time being, most likely not. Warcraft 3 will be the main one, but if there's other games that I can bring out, and they'll just be sort of like short series, like the Diablo ones did well, because it's not like a permanent kind of thing. People saw StarCraft 2 and probably panicked and thought StarCraft 2 has taken over, there's no more Warcraft 3. It's not like that. If I do, I will tell you on the channel if that's going to be the case, if I'm suddenly going to switch to a different game, which I haven't done at this point. In fact, the irony is that I started on StarCraft 2 and switched to Warcraft 3. So all the Warcraft 3 people hating on StarCraft 2, thinking I'm swapping to StarCraft 2. That's kind of like a very funny irony there. Anyway, I hope that answers your question, and I apologise for the accent. And,